Okay, let's dive into something truly expansive today. If you play D&D, you know your world, right? The forests, mountains, dungeons,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
The familiar stuff.
But what about everything beyond that? We're talking about the cosmic landscape, the
Yeah.
fundamental structure of reality in the game, the planes of existence.
Exactly. And we've been digging into the source material you sent over, and it lays out this mind-bending map of the multiverse.
Yeah.
It shows us reality isn't just one big place.
Oh,
No, it's layered, it's got different dimensions, and they're governed by wildly different principles. It's fascinating stuff.
okay, so our mission in this deep dive is basically to unpack what these planes actually are. How do they connect to each other and to your world?
And how you might actually get there. We're talking legendary ways of travel.
Right. And why understanding this whole cosmic structure is, well, key to unlocking really epic new levels in your D&D games. Think of it like getting the user manual for the universe your characters inhabit.
It's definitely a journey from the known world to the utterly alien, full of surprises, and honestly, tons of ideas for adventure hooks.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where do we even begin trying to grasp something this huge?
Well, you got to start with the familiar, right? And in D&D, that's the material plane.
Right, okay. The baseline reality, the nexus point, is where most adventures kick off.
Yeah.
You know, the taverns, the monsters, the ruins you're used to exploring.
Yeah, and the sources are really clear that even this familiar realm is incredibly diverse. Your material plane could be, I don't know, a land of magic-scarred deserts.
Or maybe endless islands on a water world.
Exactly. Or a place where magic and, like, advanced technology somehow blend together. Or maybe it's stuck in a perpetual stone age.
It could even be a world where the gods literally walk among people, or one they've just abandoned entirely.
The key point is it's infinitely variable. It's shaped by the DM, by the player's actions. It's the anchor for everything else we're going to talk about.
And crucially, the rest of the multiverse, all these other planes, they're defined in relation to this one. It's the cosmic starting point.
Precisely. Everything else is measured from there.
But the real fascination, I think, comes when you step beyond this familiar world. And the sources emphasize something really important right away.
What's that?
That the other planes aren't just different locations. It's not like just traveling to another country on the map.
No, definitely not. They're described as fundamentally different qualities of being. That's a key phrase. They aren't just made of different stuff. They're governed by these, like, abstract spiritual and elemental principles.
So traveling there isn't just a trip. It's a mythic journey.
I like that phrasing, mythic journey.
Yeah.
Like you might be braving the realms of the dead or seeking out actual celestial beings or maybe trying to bargain with powerful Afridi in their cities of fire.
The travel itself becomes the quest, almost.
Exactly. It adds this whole layer of legend to just getting from A to B.
So think about this. For you listening, who would you seek out on another plane? What kind of impossible quest would actually draw your character to brave another dimension?
Good question. And if you are planning that kind of quest, you need to know how to get there, right?
Right. How do you actually do it?
The sources basically outline two main methods for planar travel: spells and portals.
Okay, spells sound direct. You just, like, cast a spell and poof, you're somewhere else.
Well, direct, yeah, but not always easy. Spells like Plane Shift can take you and your group, sure, but you usually need the right focus item, like a specific tuning fork. And then there's the really powerful Gate spell that can create a direct connection to almost any specific spot on any plane. But, I mean, that's very high-level magic.
Right, okay, so not something you're doing at level 3.
Mm-hmm.
And some spells let you step into certain planes to travel through them.
Exactly. Like etherealness lets you pop into the ethereal plane. An astral projection sends your consciousness, basically your soul, into the astral plane. That's often how you reach the outer planes.
So spells are kind of the specific targeted tools for the job.
Precisely. Then you've got portals. These are less about casting a spell yourself and more about finding a connection that already exists.
Portals feel more mysterious, don't they? Like something you'd just stumble across in an old ruin.
They can be. And what do they look like? Well, sometimes surprisingly mundane. A specific doorway that just goes somewhere else, a weird window, even just a patch of mist that feels wrong.
But they can also be tied to really significant places, right?
Oh, yeah. Like a circle of ancient standing stones that hums with energy, or a tower that seems to exist in multiple realities at once. Even a sailing ship that just kind of drifts between dimensions.
Some sources even mention whole towns flickering between planes. That's wild.
It is. And then you get the more visceral ones, vortices tied to elemental areas.
Like the heart of a volcano leading straight to the plane of fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the crushing depths of an ocean trench connecting you to the plane of water. Those are often less predictable, maybe more dangerous than finding a stable doorway.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for DMs listening. How would you design a cool portal hook for your players? Is it like a mirror that only shows another world on a full moon?
Or a specific book, maybe. When you read it aloud in a certain library, a door just appears.
Is it a natural thing, like a lightning strike hitting the same ancient tree opens a path for a minute? The sources give us so many starting points.
Tons of possibilities. So, okay, you've used a spell or found a portal. Where might you end up? Sometimes you land in what are called the Transitive Planes.
Ah, right, the highways of reality, the ethereal and the astral. The main idea here, according to the material, is that these aren't usually places you go to stay, that they're realms you travel through.
Primarily means of conveyance, yeah. Let's take the ethereal plane first. It's described like this vast, misty, fog-bound ocean.
And it has two parts.
Kind of. There's the border ethereal, which is the most accessible bit. It overlaps the material plane and also the inner planes. When you're there, you're sort of ghost-like.
You can see into the connected plane.
Right, you can see it, but usually you can't interact directly unless there are specific conditions or certain spells involved. You're just out of phase.
And some creatures, or spells like see, invisibility, or true seeing, can actually perceive things lurking in this border ethereal layer.
Good point. And also, certain force effects, like a wall of force or a force cage, they still work. They can block movement even for ethereal creatures. So even when you're phasing, you're not totally untouchable.
Okay, so that's the border. What's the other part?
Beyond that is the deep ethereal. That's described as this sea of swirling mists, colorful fogs, truly between realities. This is where you might find strange bits of drifting rock or wreckage, maybe even lost demiplanes floating around.
Okay, misty ocean. Then there's the astral plane, different vibe.
Totally different. This is the realm of thought and dream, often described as a silvery sea or maybe a void. The unique thing here is travel using spells like astral projection.
That's the one where you leave your body behind, right?
Often, yes. You're traveling as a disembodied consciousness, your soul connected back to your body by a silvery cord. It's the primary way to reach the outer planes.
And visually, what's it like?
The sources describe it as wide open, a silvery void, yeah, but with these swirling wisps of color, motes of light like distant stars, and sometimes actual solid things drifting through.
Like what?
Like chunks of rock, broken constructs, even the petrified carcasses of dead gods. It's much less physical, much more conceptual than the ethereal.
So these planes, they aren't usually the final destination, but imagine the encounters you could have while traveling through a sea made of thoughts.
Exactly. You could meet beings made of pure intellect or mental constructs given form, maybe even things that prey on stray thoughts or consciousness. It turns the journey itself into a whole adventure.
Okay, so away from the highways, we get to the inner planes.
Right. If the material plane is the nexus, the inner planes are described as the raw substance of existence itself.
They surround the material plane, is that right? And they provide the fundamental elemental building blocks that worlds are made of.
That's the idea. The sources identify the 4 core elemental planes: air, earth, fire, and water. They're usually pictured as forming a kind of ring.
A ring around the material plane.
Well, sort of suspended within this larger thing called the elemental chaos. But yeah, conceptually, they encircle it.
Now, the key thing here, the insight isn't just that they're made of elements, it's that the concept of air or fire or water or earth exists there in its purest, most fundamental state.
Exactly. So at the edges, the parts closest to the material plane, the elements do mingle a bit. You might find regions that actually seem like a recognizable world solid ground, maybe some water, breathable air, that sort of thing.
But the farther you go into the plane,
the more alien and hostile it gets. You find these vast, pure expanses, endless solid earth with no air pockets, blindingly intense fire stretching forever, infinitely deep, clear water with no surface or floor, or just unsullied air.
Pure, unsullied air. What kind of survival challenge is that? You'd think, great air, but if it's only air, maybe there's no ground, no up or down, just an endless, featureless void of air.
Precisely. Or imagine trying to navigate an infinite expanse of solid Earth if you can't phase through it. These are extreme environments. Survival demands powerful magic, serious adaptation.
And at the very farthest reaches.
That's where the pure elements dissolve into this unending, chaotic tumult. All four clashing and swirling together, they call that the elemental chaos.
Okay. Inner planes. Raw stuff. Then we have the outer planes. These are different.
Very different. If the inner planes are matter and energy, the outer planes are described as realms of direction, thought, philosophy, and purpose.
And they're most famously known as the homes of deities, right?
They are, but the material is really careful to stress that this language has to be highly metaphorical. A god's true home isn't like a literal castle on a cloud. It's a realm of thought, of spirit, of fundamental principle made manifest.
So the parts mortals can actually perceive and travel to might just be, I don't know, the border regions, the outermost layers of a much bigger, more abstract reality.
That's a good way to think about it. And appearances there are incredibly deceptive, because the landscape itself can change completely.
No, so.
This is a huge insight into the outer planes. The very fabric of reality there isn't fixed. It can be reshaped, erased, rebuilt entirely, just based on the whim of the powerful beings who dwell there. Gods, archdevils, demon lords, you name it.
Wow, so the ground beneath your feet could literally disappear if the ruler of that realm wills it.
Or change into something else entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a critical rule for understanding these planes. And it means distance is weird, too.
How is distance weird?
The sources say what looks like a vast desert might take you a day to cross if the plane's powers want you to get there quickly. Or it could take you weeks to cross what looks like a small courtyard if they want to impede you.
So distance is almost meaningless. It just bends to the will of the plane's rulers.
Pretty much. Which raises a really important question for any adventurer going there.
Which is?
If the plane itself can change, if the ground, the sky, the laws of physics can be warped by these powerful entities, how does that mess with your quest goals? How does it affect your safety, your sanity? How can you even plan?
You're not just navigating terrain. You're navigating the will of godlike beings.
Exactly. Now, the most well-known outer planes are a group of 16, and they're typically linked to the various alignments in D&D, excluding true neutral.
Okay, alignment. That's key here.
It's the defining characteristic. The planes associated with some element of good, lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, those are the upper planes. Homes to celestials like angels, Pegasi, creatures like that.
And the ones linked to some element of evil, lawful evil, neutral evil, chaotic evil, those are the lower planes. The realms of fiends, devils, demons, Yugoloths.
And this alignment isn't just like a label, it's the plane's very essence, its fundamental nature.
So how does that affect visitors?
Well, if you visit a plane whose alignment matches your own, you feel in tune. There's this sense of fundamental rightness, of belonging.
But if your alignment clashes, like a good character in one of the hells,
then you feel this profound sense of dissonance. It's deeply uncomfortable. The sources suggest it can even be physically or mentally draining over time. The plane itself seems to just resist you, push back against your nature.
Imagine trying to roleplay that. Your lawful good paladin steps onto a layer of the abyss, this chaotic evil realm of demons. How would they feel that wrongness?
Or a chaotic evil rogue trying to sneak through Mount Celestia, the lawful good plane. How would that fundamental opposition actually manifest? It adds such a rich layer to role-playing planar travel.
Definitely. Okay, so we've covered inner and outer. What's left? Demiplanes.
Right. These are fascinating. The sources describe them as these small, extra-dimensional spaces, little pocket realities almost. They have their own unique rules, and they're basically pieces of existence that don't quite fit into the main structure of the multiverse.
Pocket realities, I like that. How do they come about?
Several ways, according to the material. Some are deliberately created by spells, like the Demiplane spell itself. Others might be generated just by the sheer power or intense desire of a really powerful being, like a deity maybe.
And some just happen.
Seems so. Some might arise naturally, like a fold or a wrinkle in reality that just pinches off, or maybe even potentially brand new baby universes just starting to form. Wild stuff.
Okay, so how do you get into one if they're pocket realities?
It can be tricky. They might only have a single, really obscure point where they touch another plane, acting like a hidden door you have to find.
Can you use plane shift?
You can, but you need a special tuning fork attuned to that specific demiplane, and the source notes that those are notoriously hard to find or make.
What about date?
The gate spell is considered more reliable if you know the demiplane exists and have enough information about it to actually target it with the spell.
So what does this all mean for your games? It means you could stumble into a demiplane that's like a wizard's private lab frozen in time.
Or a bizarre prison holding some creature too dangerous for the main planes.
Or maybe even the secret workshop or library of a forgotten god, full of lost knowledge or powerful artifacts. They're perfect for these isolated, self-contained adventures with their own weird rules of physics or strange environments.
Exactly. So, okay, we've charted a course here. From the familiar ground of the material plane.
Traveled the highways of the transitive planes.
Explored the raw, fundamental substance of the inner planes.
Delved into the realms of thought and purpose in the outer planes.
And peeked into the strange little pocket realities of demiplanes.
And by understanding these core concepts, these rules for how these places work, drawn straight from the material you shared, you basically unlock this entire cosmology for your D&D campaigns.
Yeah, you're not just stuck on one world anymore. You can base adventures in elemental lands, introduce creatures native to planes of pure good or absolute evil.
Send your players on epic quests to retrieve something from a deity's realm, or really challenge high-level characters with the unique dangers of just traveling between planes, or the environments themselves.
So think about how you can weave these concepts into your own game. Does the main villain actually hail from one of the 9 hells? Does a portal just rip open unexpectedly in the middle of town, unleashing chaos?
Is the final MacGuffin the party needs hidden away inside some volatile, unstable demiplane?
This deep dive really shows that reality in D&D is incredibly complex, layered, and it offers almost infinite possibilities for adventure. It goes way beyond just Dungeons and Dragons on a single map.
It really does. And it leaves you with some big thoughts, too.
Like what?
Well, that idea about the outer planes. If the very fabric of reality there can be completely reshaped by the will and desires of the powerful beings living there, what does that actually imply about the nature of existence itself?
Does will shape reality, or is it the other way around? And what does that tell us about the limits of power, or even the true nature of the gods themselves?
Definitely something to ponder. It adds a whole philosophical layer on top of the adventuring potential.
It really does. A lot to think about. And yeah, a lot of potential for some awesome games.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the planes of existence.
Hey, if you found this breakdown helpful for, wrapping your head around D&D cosmology, please do give the video a like.
Yeah, that'd be great. And be sure to subscribe to the Deep Dive channel for more deep dives like this one, helping you unlock new possibilities in your games.